We're saying thank you for 88 years. With anniversary savings we're celebrating, get up to $1,938 off any.
And blood was also present on the driver's side. And they went ahead and towed that blue Mazda off the scene. Now, Samer, who was pronounced dead on the scene, with the bullet still protruding from his neck, didn't stand a chance, being directly in the line of fire. But Pollo was transported to UCLA Harbor before being pronounced dead. And the next day, police decide to pull the registration on the blue Mazda, being that's the only piece that seemingly didn't fit off the crime scene. And it came back to none other than Holly Santos, the sister of infant baller from 6'9 East Coast. Now, DNA still had to be processed from the blood found in the Mazda, as well as DNA from the items inside the Mazda, along with fingerprints on the car. But police tried to get in contact with Holly Santos about giving her the car back. And of course, they want to talk and ask what her car was doing on 116th. When they finally got in contact with her, she said that she reported the car stolen, and communication with her seemingly went cold after multiple attempts of trying to meet. And on December 7, 2021, police are seemingly sitting on their hands, waiting for more leads to pop up. And one does. Exactly 24 hours after the murder of Pollo and Samer in the RV, police get a call of a shooting on El Segundo and Main Street in the Athens Park Bloods. Now, this was seemingly a busy day. When police arrived at the Arco gas station, they stumbled across multiple individuals hit with high-powered rifles. Some are still at the scene, others have departed, and have now widened the scope of the investigation. But when they contacted the worker inside of the AMPM, she stated she heard several gunshots and a black female enter the store holding the right side of her abdomen, and she observed a large amount of blood leaking from that bullet wound. She stated that the young lady ran to the back of the store, entered the staff room, and then ran back outside the front entrance in an unknown direction. She also stated that she saw a black man run towards the store from the gunshots, and he seemingly jumped inside of an unknown vehicle and sped off the scene. But police also made contact with a Toyota Tundra. There was a gunshot victim sitting in that Tundra who said he was on the phone with his son after he heard several gunshots coming from behind him, and as he slumped down in his seat, his glass shattered and he was hit on the left side of his abdomen. Now, he was treated at the scene, but police needed to find those other victims that came out of a white Alfa Romeo SUV that was left on the scene unattended. So the first point of action, police decided to start calling the hospitals. And this is when they found two recent gunshot victims who had stated that they were shot on El Segundo in Maine. Imajane Howard, the female that ran inside the AMPM store, and Keandre Neal, the individual that jumped into the unknown vehicle and sped off the scene. Both of these individuals are said to be from Athens Park Bloods. Now, Imajane has sustained a gunshot wound to the leg, the same as Keandre. Both were still alive. And police immediately drove to UCLA Harbor to meet with Keandre Neal after he was evaluated and treated for his wounds. He said that he was in the car with his friends. Imajane was sitting in the front passenger seat, and he suddenly heard numerous gunshots. He immediately jumped out of the vehicle from the driver's side and dove underneath that pickup truck of the man talking to his son. The truck was parked next to the Alfa Romeo, and he said he began hiding underneath.
Dive under there and just probably started shooting towards that car. That's probably why that random nigga got hit.
The pickup truck.
The nigga that was sitting in that car, nigga, he got hit too.
Until he felt a tingling sensation and the heaviness in his right leg. He looked down and saw a massive amount of blood leaking. And when the shooting stopped, he crawled from underneath the pickup truck and hopped into one of his other friends' cars before leaving the scene. And that action is what got the individual sitting in that truck, an unaffiliated individual, also shot. And around those two vehicles, police find 36 .223 shells and 37 .762 shells riddled in the parking lot of the Arco gas station. And as they cut the tape on, they seen at approximately 7:15 p.m. two black males walk up to the Alfa Romeo from the south side of the parking lot, armed with rifles. One black male wearing a red hoodie and the other one wearing a white sweater began shooting several rounds before entering a small silver or gray type SUV and speeding off the scene westbound towards Main Street. Now, an individual from Westside Peru was also at the gas station, and he seemingly made it out without being touched. But earlier that day, it said that Athens Park had shot somebody from Carver Park. So initially, police started to look at the Carvers as the suspects for retaliation over here on El Segundo in Maine. Not gluing together anything with the homicide that took place just 24 hours prior on the 116th, being that these were two different hoods. But from a bird's eye view, these were two hoods that were also beefing with 1180 East Coast. Now, nobody ended up losing their life at this Arco shooting, but that wouldn't be the case exactly 7 days later in Westside Piru Hood on North Salinas Avenue and 134th Street. Police, at this point, are waiting for something to fall in their lap. They got descriptions of vehicles, not really any descriptions for any suspects, and they're waiting for DNA. But the aggressive nature of these shooters also seemingly was their Achilles heel, because right before 6 p.m. on Tuesday evening, December 14, 2021, police get another call, this time at another gas station on Central and Alondra. They respond to see another black female suffering from a gunshot wound to her right hip. She's still alive, conscious, and as she begins to break down exactly what happened, another phone call arrives off of Salinas Avenue in Compton. And when police respond, they find 29-year-old Antonio Dotson, also known as Rosecrans Tone, from Westside Piru, suffering from at least 32 gunshot wounds sustained to his torso and his limbs. Laying next to him was his key fob and his cell phone, which had also been struck by gunfire, along with his Audi that also had multiple bullet holes in it. And with 32 gunshot wounds, Antonio Dotson is pronounced deceased at the scene at 5:57 p.m. on the night of December 14th. Now, the female victim at the gas station was able to escape with her life and was also able to recount the events that took place on Salinas. She said she was waiting in her driveway in front of this house and speaking with her tenant, which was Antonio. She said he was about to make a rent payment when he was leaned over in their car and they were having a conversation. And with her story being corroborated by surveillance footage, a black Mercedes SUV is traveling south on Salinas and suddenly stops just south of the driveway. Immediately, the front passenger gets out the car and starts sparking with a high-power rifle before another passenger gets out the car and he is also sparking with a high-power rifle. And the two shooters proceed to shoot Antonio Dotson and his landlord before jumping back into the black Benz and fleeing south on Salinas Avenue out of view. At this point, this is when the landlord drove off of Salinas and drove to the gas station off Central and Alondra. And left behind was Antonio Dotson, lying face down in the driveway, bleeding from his back and unconscious. And this murder would bring some instant karma back to 118th and Main Street. While police are still processing this scene.
Whoever scored up on these niggas found out what they were staying, nigga, and came back on these niggas.
Salinas in the Westside Piru.
I don't know if it was right after
approximately 3 hours later at 8:22 p.m. They get another phone call. Look. And this time it's another shooting, but in the 1180s coasts. Now, 2 phone calls initially came in, one from 118th and another from 116th, just steps away from where police found Pollo and Samer from South Los. Police find a gray Mazda on 116th with 23-year-old Deontay Wilkins in the back seat, suffering from multiple high-power rifle gunshot wounds and being pronounced dead. In the car with him is an individual named Devontae Brown and another individual named Terrence Adams, who also goes by Ratbone. Now, with this murder seemingly being retaliation for the murder of Tone just hours prior, police try to work fast, but something's missing. On the 116th, where the phone call and the victims were at, no crime scene was found. No shell casings, no evidence of this shooting. And this is when police go back into the call log and find that the initial shooting report came from 118th and Main, and they make their way over there. And when they get there, this is the crime scene where Deontay Wilkins lost his life. But they also stumble on a Grand Theft Auto style compound at 11854 Main Street and locate multiple cameras in the field of view of the shooting of Deontay Wilkins. Now, police find just shy of 50 shell casings in the alley behind 11854 Main Street, and they immediately press for a search warrant of the surveillance camera that was just above those shell casings. Now, that search warrant also encompassed the surveillance camera on the other side of the black automatic gate due to there being potential evidence on that side of the gate. And when police got that camera footage, they began to piece together the makings of serial killers in South Central. Now, these tapes, again, are in possession of Marvin Lanier, K-Head, who's said to have the keys to 1180's Coast, meaning that he was running a program. And police immediately turn the clock to 8:22 p.m. And on that tape, they see 2 things. They see a gray Mazda, Terrence Adams get into the driver's seat, Deontay Wilkins get into the back passenger. along with Devontae. But next to that vehicle, they see a black Mercedes SUV. And these two vehicles are in the courtyard, just on the other side of the gate. And video surveillance depicts the Mazda getting ready to take off before somebody runs away from it. And when it seems like Deontay Wilkins heard something from the alley, shots started ringing off, ripping through the Mazda, breaking the glass. And as the Mazda springs forward, the shooters step inside the compound and begin to fire more rounds into it, taking the life of Deontay Wilkins. Now that they've pieced together the crime scene and exactly what happened to Devontae, you know, the next thing they start to put their focus on is that black Mercedes-Benz SUV, who up to this point, on December 15, 2021, has been at 2 different murder scenes involved in 3 homicides total. So detectives decide to into it, taking the life of Deontay Wilkins. Now, Mazda breaking the glass, and as the Mazda springs forward, Mercedes SUV. And these two vehicles are in the courtyard, just on the other side of the gate. And video surveillance depicts the Mazda getting ready to take off before somebody runs away from it. And when it seems like Deontay Wilkins heard something from the alley, shots started ringing off, ripping through the Mazda, breaking the glass. And as the Mazda springs forward, the shooters step inside the compound and begin to fire more rounds into it, taking the life of Deontay Wilkins. Now that they've pieced together the crime scene and exactly what happened to Devontae, you know, the next thing they start to put their focus on is that black Mercedes-Benz SUV, who up to this point, on December 15, 2021, has been at 2 different murder scenes involved in 3 homicides total. So detectives decide to rewind the surveillance video back to December 6th, the same day Pollo and Samer were killed on 116th. And at 7:04 p.m., 4 minutes after they were killed, detectives get a treat and stumble upon the black Mercedes SUV and the black Volkswagen Jetta, both described by Pollo's sister, turning into the compound on 118th and Main Street. Now, as the video keeps rolling, they watch Khalil Santos, Infant Baller, Corey Irvin, The General, Terrence Adams, Ratbone, and 19-year-old Kevin Infant Juneboy Salter exit those 2 vehicles. And they watch them go inside the compound straight to Marvin Lanier. But in hand, they have multiple weapons, rifles and pistols, on surveillance camera. They've taken their masks off, and they're seen laughing and joking and reenacting the murders of Pollo and Samer, showing how they performed to Marvin Lanier. Now, detectives caught a chance encounter, something that stood out to them. Marvin Lanier approaches Infant Baller, and he seemingly starts to inspect his neck, his hoodie, and his head area. He pulls out a flashlight, and him and Terrence are having an exchange with Khalil, while Corey, Kendall, and Kevin are seemingly doing their own thing, getting their shit straight. Now, this exchange between Marvin and Khalil turned out to be more important than one could imagine just based off watching the video. Remember, Khalil's sister's vehicle was found at the murder just minutes before this interaction. And in that vehicle, there was bloodstains along with other articles of clothing. And when detectives pulled Khalil's phone number, they noticed a phone call that Khalil had placed to an inmate sitting in LA County named Christian Holmes, December 8th, 2 days after the homicide. Now, as we all know, the phone calls from the jail are recorded. And 3 minutes and 40 seconds into that phone call, Khalil Santos states that he got skinned. He said on the dead homies, he was skinned in the ear, and he got 4 holes in his sweater, and that he was hit 1 time. Holmes asked him where he was hit at. Khalil replies his ear, and he replies on 11/8 he was in his car. And with this, they take this back to Pollo's sister, who again was on the scene in the tent under the RV, and she then extends her statement and says immediately after the shooting, an individual named Shrek from South Los had approached her out of breath with a pistol. He told her that he returned fire on these dudes from East Coast when he saw them shooting up the RV. And this whole interaction from the surveillance camera and the phone call has put everything into perspective as to how blood was found in that blue Mazda. Khalil Santos ends up being skinned, which also proves why the trajectory of bullets on the blue Mazda did not match that of those found on the RV. But back at the compound on camera, they now watch K-Head get to work. They see him changing the license plates on the black Mercedes SUV with the help of Terrence Adams. And when they put the originals back on and ran the registration, those license plates came back to an individual that was staying inside of Corey Irvin's address, seemingly linking him to that Mercedes. Now, police also noted that Kendall Taylor, aka 8-Boy, and Corey Irvin have received multiple citations in that black Mercedes-Benz in times past. And this is when police start to now figure out what's up with that black Jetta. Now, as more surveillance videos start to trickle in, they've already caught the black Jetta at the compound, pulling in right after the Mercedes. But surveillance around the neighborhood after the shooting on 116th captured the Jetta following closely behind the Mercedes on the path of travel away from the murder and to the compound. The plates on a black Jetta ends up coming back to a 2014 Volkswagen registered in the name of Kendall Taylor's mom. This is A-Boy's mom's car used on the murder of Pollo and Samer. Now, December 20th, 2014, 5 days after they stumbled on this information, they're processing the registrations. And at this same time, in the city of Anaheim, this black 2014 Jetta is parked in the red in front of a fire hydrant. And there's also multiple outstanding tickets on it. The Volkswagen is towed and placed into custody. It had 5 parking tickets in the last 2 months. And when detectives in LA realize Anaheim PD already has it in their possession, they go ahead and touch it and find Kendall Taylor's AAA card along with his bail paperwork in the center console. And the door is quickly starting to close on East Coast. Now, along with Infant June Boy being caught at one time in the Mazda, his fingerprints were also pulled from the Mazda when they finally came back off of the scene where Pollo and Samer were murdered. And he's seen holding a pistol in his hand, getting back to the compound. And as we knew, Khalil Santos' DNA was found from the blood splatter of him being skinned in the ear while being in the Mazda on December 6th as well. Now, when it came to the homicide of Antonio Dotson, a new player got introduced from 1180 East Coast, Samaj Brown. When detectives flicked the camera back to a situation that brought them to the compound in the first place, they cut it on to 4 p.m. right before East Coast slid to the west side Pyrus. They saw Khalil Santos and Samaj Brown grab some assault rifles before leaving the compound in the black Mercedes. And based on where Samaj Brown was sitting, they said that he was one of the individuals that jumped out and started firing at Rosecrans home. The camera also seen them come back in the Benz right after the murder and watch G-Man, Infant Baller, and Samaj Brown exit the vehicle. And of course, Khalil Santos and Samaj still had that heavy artillery in hand. This is when they start to peel off some of their clothes and hand it to Marvin, where he places the clothes in the barbecue pit and burns them. And a similar situation played out when they rolled the clock back to the shootings that happened at the Arco of Mumu and Keandre Neal. But what glued them together fully is that the car that was used at the Arco shooting ended up being an Enterprise rental, coming back to none other than Terrence Adams, aka Ratbone. Before that shooting, that same gray Mazda that Deontay Wilkins ended up being killed in was seen on the tape, and it shows K-Head changing the license plates on it. And right after that, Infant June Boy.
Jesse Lopez has a troubling pattern of playing by a different set of rules.
Infant Baller, Ratbone, and G-Man slide to the Arco, which is less than a mile away from the compound. And this time, police say Infant Baller, Infant June Boy, and Ratbone are the ones that got out the car and start sparking at Mumu and Keandre before going back.
Infant June, Ratbone,
No, who said?
Infant June Boy, Infant Baller, Ratbone.
Who said they did that?
Ended up being killed in was seen on the tape, and it shows K-Head changing the license plates on it. And right after that, Infant June Boy, Infant Baller, Ratbone, and G-Man slide to the Arco, which is less than a mile away from the compound. And this time, police say Infant Baller, Infant June Boy, and Ratbone are the ones that got out the car and start sparking at Mumu and Keandre before going back to the compound with everything seen on tape. Now, the murder of Deontay Wilkins was seemingly the final act by these individuals before the birthday party of Breonna Stines came into play. The same day detectives got the footage from 118th and Main, they say that a member from East Coast has shot 32-year-old Charleston Johnson from Denver Lane on Vermont right off the 105 ramp. And 3 days after that, they say the Westside Pyrus has shot and killed 25-year-old Cordell Bell off 120th and Willowbrook, who's from Mona Park. So they're trying to piece together who's who and what's what. But these dudes from 11-8 seemingly are staying low until that night on January 23rd off Park Avenue in Inglewood at the Airbnb. Now that they have Corey Irvin linked to the black Mercedes SUV, this is now gluing together who's in that black SUV that was on surveillance camera circling the birthday party of Lady Takeoff. They also ended up finding a plate that's associated with the green Charger that was also circling the party. Now, the plate didn't come back to anybody in Khalil's residence like that blue Mazda did, but Khalil Santos had also been stopped and received a citation in that same green Charger prior to the quadruple murder in the Airbnb. Now, with that being a high-profile case, January 26, 2022, the FBI steps in, along with 5 other agencies with their sights on the East Coast. They also say that they got a text message from a confidential informant stating that 1180 East Coast was behind the quadruple murder of Breonna Stines, her sister, and the other partygoers. And when the FBI get to the table, they said they were already working on the phone numbers of Corey Irvin, Kendall Taylor, Khalil Santos, and Terrence Adams. When cellular analysis came back, they said Corey Irvin and Kendall Taylor's phone pinged within 100 meters of the Park Avenue address between 12:59 a.m. and 1:34 a.m. right when the murders were taking place. They said Khalil Santos' phone also pinged in that location. And when Terrence Adams was shot with Deontay Wilkins all the way back on December 14th, 2021, he had provided his phone number to detectives and they used it against him, triangulating his position. And with everybody being glued, just 2 weeks shy of the quadruple murders in Inglewood, February 2nd, 2022, 6 individuals go down. The first spot, they hit 118th and Main. Marvin Lanier is at the compound and they take it down. They find a .223 rifle, a safe with bullets in, face mask and ski mask, along with clothing seen at one of the murder scenes. Next, Terrence Adams, who coincidentally stayed on Bullis, but just south of Rosecrans in the Looters Parks, across from Ma Paru. When they hit his house, they find numerous articles of clothing matching the murder scenes, along with a ski mask, and they find Deontay Wilkins' obituary with Corey Irvin and Samaj Brown as pallbearers. They also find a rifle with a scope and rounds in Ratbone's crib. Next, they hit Kendall Taylor's spot, and they came up on a whole lot. They found the clothes Corey Irvin was wearing, the blue sweatpants and black Nike jacket. They found a plate that was used as a swap on the black Mercedes SUV. They find his bail paperwork, the ones that matched the paperwork found in the black Jetta. They found multiple magazines and live rounds in his house as well. Khalil Santos, infant baller, goes down, and he seemingly is sitting on all the weapons.
Wow.
They found multiple rifles and handguns, drums, and they found a gray sweatsuit he was wearing on the night of the quadruple murders in Inglewood. And then it was time for infant June boy, Kevin Salter. They staked his house out on 126th. They found an individual that came out of the house that matched his description, jumped into an Uber. They couldn't definitively say if it was him, so they followed the Uber to downtown LA. This individual then jumps out on Flower Street in front of the Pegasus Apartments, where he's identified as 19-year-old Kevin Salter, also known as Infant June Boy. And when they try to stop him, he does the dash. He starts trying to do his shit and throws a pistol underneath the vehicle. That pistol comes back as a .40 cal before he's tackled to the ground and hits his head on the pole and is taken to the hospital. And after the hospital is where we found him sitting in that room with detectives, where he said he had a learning disability and he don't know what they're talking about. Detectives tried to grill him, and he seemingly dodged all questions, even ones pertaining to some gangbang, and he got himself up out of that room. But when they took Terrence Adams, also known as Ratbone, down, he got in the interview room and did make...
Stupid.
And after the hospital is where we found him sitting in that room with detectives, where he said he had a learning disability and he don't know what they're talking about. Detectives tried to grill him, and he seemingly dodged all questions, even ones pertaining to some gangbang, and he got himself up out of that room. But when they took Terrence Adams, also known as Ratbone, down, he got in the interview room and did make a few statements, and he gave an account as to why his fingerprints were on the blue Mazda that was parked on 116th after the murder of Samer and Pollo, and why he was identified getting out of the Mercedes SUV 4 minutes after the murder. He identified himself at the crime scene, and he stated that Khalil Santos had gave him a call that day. He said that Khalil stated that he got into it with members of South Los, and that he was on 116th in the blue Mazda, and that he got grazed in the ear. Terrence Adams said that he then slid on 116th in the Mercedes SUV solely to pick up Khalil Santos. He said Khalil jumped in the car and they slid off 116th, but Khalil was with somebody who Terrence couldn't identify. He said that as they were sliding off, another car had pulled up and that unidentified individual had somewhat rendezvoused with the individuals in that other car. And as they were driving off, they began to hear gunshots go off on 116th before going to the compound. He also identified Marvin Lanier as being the individual inside the compound that they were talking to, and without realizing it, glued himself to the murder scene of Pollo and Samer. Now, Samaj Brown ended up going down 5 days after these dudes, February 7, 2022, initially for a parole violation, before being upgraded for being involved in the murder of Tone from Westside Piru. Now, when all these guns were seized on these takedowns, one gun in particular has stood out. It was a 40 cal pistol registered to an individual named Augustin Cerezo. And in a twist and turn of events, on January 18, 2022, before the murders in Inglewood, Augustin, who stayed in the Hoovers off 88th and Hoover, was found dead, shot and burned, and located by a transient in a grassy area behind residential buildings in the city of LA. Now, police have not linked that murder to this situation, but that was a part of their findings when weapons were located on these suspects. But one thing police did take note of was that shell casings from a 9mm had matched those used in an assault with a deadly weapon, where a lady was shot at Manchester Park on 88th and Hoover, just steps away from where Augustin lived. Back on June 11, 2021, 8 9mm cases were found and were a match for the one used to kill Pollo and Samer, and another shooting that went on in Vegas in 2015. And this ended the whirlwind, where police got a front row seat due to compound footage of aggressive shooters turned into serial killers. Now, when everything hit the fan, trials were had. Khalil Santos, aka Infant Baller, was found guilty of 7 murders, 6 attempts, multiple conspiracy charges, and assault with a machine gun. And he was sentenced to life without parole, with more than 100 years on a sentence. Corey Irvin, the General, aka G-Man, met a similar fate, found guilty of 7 murders, 6 attempts, multiple conspiracy charges, and assault with a machine gun, life without parole, over 200 years. Kendall Taylor, acquitted of 4 murders and 4 attempts, but was convicted of 2 murders and has been sentenced to 30 years of life in state prison. Marvin Lanier, who police allege had dominion over this group, provided weapons, provided a safe house, and was the G-homie overseeing the murders. He was acquitted of the killings of Pollo and Samer, but convicted of 1 homicide linked to Antonio Dotson and 2 attempts and multiple conspiracy and gun charges, sentenced to 25 to life. Samaj Brown, acquitted of an attempt, but found guilty of the first-degree murder of Antonio Dotson from Westside Piru, as well as 1 conspiracy charge. He received life without parole. Now, for Kevin Salter and Terrence Adams, jurors were deadlocked in their connection with the murder of Pollo and Samer from South Los. But Infant Juneboy was found guilty of 2 conspiracies and 2 attempts, but he has a retrial May of 2026. The same with Terrence Adams, May of 2026. And this is how it played out, with the East Coast Crips being aggressive with their enemies, aggressive with the gunplay, leading their enemies and the police back to their compound and going crazy in the city. Y'all make sure y'all stay locked in for the next one. This is the best hood channel on YouTube, Rap News Street Politics. We out.
I tried everything for my stubborn dandruff, and then I found Nizoral.
That's crazy, huh?
Out of it. As Rap News Street Politics, the best hood channel on YouTube, about to take a deep dive into the homicide of Ezell Leonard, professionally known as YCA 80 Bands, as well as the subsequent arrest of Deontay Samuel, also known as Young Threat, along with 2 co-defendants that also went down in this case. Now, 2 things are going to be true in this video and the paperwork that we show. Number 1, YCA 80 Bands lost his life via multiple gunshot wounds on Manchester between Menlo and Vermont, October 14, 2025. Number 2, everybody that was arrested in this case is innocent until proven guilty. And this especially goes for the court of public opinion. Everything we speak on in this video regarding the defendants in this case are allegations that the police set forth to move the district attorney's hand to write a warrant for their arrest. That information has not been proven as fact, and again, all 3 of the defendants have to have their day in court. So with that being said, we gotta peel the curtain back and bring y'all as close as possible to what transpired when 2 rappers coming out of South Central from 2 reputable hoods, one on the west side, one on the east side, allegedly ran into each other. Now, some of the paperwork we going through today, we usually have it for a series that's members only, and it will remain members only after this video called Final Moments. Due to the fact that we have different elements that we'll cover in this video, we've made it public, giving you guys the opportunity to see what we doing for the members on the back end, where we go through the final moments of individuals that we spoke about on this channel that have lost their lives, where we use a little less gang politics and a little bit more compassion when going through the life of the individuals that we speak on. So with all that being said, we gotta ask that everybody is respectful in the comments, not only of the individual that lost his life in this situation, but also the people that are fighting for their lives, who are, again, innocent until proven guilty, regardless of whatever decisions you feel like anybody made in this situation. We also got to say viewer discretion is advised, because we will be taking an anatomical approach to this situation as well. But with the somewhat high profile nature of this case, we got to start slightly before 1 p.m. October 14th, 2025. Now, this was a rainy day in South Central. Over the last few months, it's been a lot of rain out here, and this was one of those days where Ezell Leonard made his way over here to the Manchester Wellness Center, a weed dispensary on Manchester between Vermont and Menlo. Now, for everybody that doesn't know, YCA 80 Bands is from Eastside A4 Main Street Mafia Crit. There's two Main Street sets,
right.
one being A4, the other being 9-8. Both of these hoods have been entrenched in the war with the Hoovers for a good amount of time now. This weed shop is right on the borderline of A. Trey Hoover and 9 Deuce Hoover, less than 5 minutes away from Manchester Park, where you guys have seen multiple Hoover vlogs, videos, things come out surrounding the Hoovers. This is the front line. And at this time last year, this was a very hot spot. Now, YCA 80 Bands pulls up in front of this weed shop. There's a Domino's Pizza next door, and in between Menlo and Vermont, there's an alleyway, and closer to Vermont, there's one parking lot, and then on Menlo, there's the Domino's Pizza parking lot. YCA 80 Bands pulls in front of the weed shop with his girl. He leaves his girl in the car and proceeds to go into the weed shop. When he got to the door, this is when he meets one of the alleged co-defendants, the security guard of the weed shop, Antonio Greer. Now, Antonio Greer may look familiar. This is Self-Made Buddha, one of the rappers coming out the Hoover section. We've displayed some of his music previously in some of our content, and Self-Made Buddha is over here, a young dude, 24, doesn't let him come into the weed shop and tells him that he needs an ID. YCA was disgruntled, goes back to the car to get his ID. His girlfriend notes that he's somewhat irritable about the situation about needing his face to go into this shop. But he gets the ID and returns back into the dispensary. Now, for everybody that doesn't know how dispensaries work, usually they'll have that front room area, the lobby, the security may be there. You got to give them your ID or whatever, and then they let you into the back with the bud tenders, get your weed, and you get out of there. It's a multi-room process. Now, allegedly, this door has to be locked and unlocked to get inside. The first time around, it's alleged that Antonio Greer wouldn't unlock it. Now that YCA got his face, he unlocked it. YCA is back inside. But around 12:36, it's alleged that Antonio Greer makes a phone call. After the phone call, YCA has finally made it back inside, and it's seemingly him and Greer alone in the lobby. Now, approximately 4 minutes later, surveillance footage catches who they allege are 3 individuals that arrive to the dispensary. It said that these individuals approach YCA. One of them pulls a firearm out and begins to shoot Ezell Leonard multiple times, causing him to fall on the ground. And while on the ground, they remain firing on YCA 80 Bands in the dispensary, which subsequently took his life at this moment. Now, again, there was multiple gunshot wounds as a result of this confrontation that happened over here on Manchester. The first gunshot wound was a penetrating wound of the left orbit. The orbit is the eye socket. We see the entry wound was closer above the eye.
Literally. Oh, shit.
Right below the eyebrow towards the middle of the nasal cavity. And this wound was not noted to have any stippling or soot on it, which indicates that the shooter was more than 3 to 4 feet away from YCA when the rounds were fired. And this also resulted in an exit wound, which was the posterior head, 5 inches below the top of the head, leaving behind a partially deformed copper-colored jacketed bullet and a gray copper-colored metallic fragment recovered from the side of the head in the soft tissue. Now, the direction of this was backward, rightward, and downward, meaning that the assailant was standing slightly to YCA's right side. And of course, this wound caused hemorrhaging or excessive bleeding along the wound pathway. The second gunshot wound was to the left side of the head, again, not leaving any soot or stippling. And in the same fashion as the last wound, an exit wound was created on the right side of the head, with this one leaving behind no bullet or bullet fragment associated with this wound. The next gunshot wound was another wound to the left side of his head, which was inferior to the last one, being that it was below that wound. Again, no soot, no stippling. The assailant is more than 3 to 4 feet away from YCA at this time. And an exit wound is also on the right side of his head, inferior to the previous exit wound. The next gunshot wound occurred on the left side of his face. Now, this was somewhat around the jawline and along the curvature of his head. No soot or stippling, no bullets or bullet fragments recovered. But with this one on an upward trajectory, the exit wound was on the right side of his head, 2.5 inches below the top of his head. Now, the next gunshot wound was somewhat of a graze, only impacting the skin and subcutaneous tissue. It was a gunshot wound to the left side of the back of the head, exiting out. Again, no soot or stippling. With
Icon G2 ratchets. New styles, expanded sizes, only at Harbor Freight.
I'm Ultima Morgan. Morgan & Morgan isn't just an injury firm. It's our family's life work. It's my husband, it's my sons, it's me.
With an exit wound only inches apart, again, a superficial perforation, not impacting the skull in any way. Now, the last gunshot wound was sustained to the left side of his chest. No soot or stippling on this wound, with it impacting his left clavicle as well as his larynx, which is his neck area and affects the respiratory tract. And the exit wound was on the right side of his neck. No bullet or bullet fragment was found on this wound, and seemingly all but one wound proved to be fatal, with collective brain injuries being the left frontal lobe, the temporal lobe, occipital lobes, and the brainstem. So as we see, this was a tragic and extremely traumatic event that played out in this dispensary. But the police allege that the assailants ran out of the dispensary, saw YCA's girlfriend, took a shot at her. Now it missed her and ended up striking the passenger window of the vehicle they came in, causing it to shatter. The defendants then entered a black vehicle and fled the scene, leaving behind 8 .40 caliber shell cases. Now, details about this dispensary, not only was it in Hoover Hood, this was a place that was allegedly heavily occupied by the members, with Hoover graffiti existing inside of this place of business. Now, blood samples taken during the autopsy did find traces of codeine, morphine, and hydrocodone in YCA's system. Now, I can't say exactly when those substances were consumed before this incident, but it does bring questions as to, is this what skewed the decision-making for YCA to be in this section at this time? That's a question that will forever remain. Now, where do police allege Young Threat and another individual named Brenton Durr to come into the equation? We have to speak about motive first. And one thing that we have to be clear about when we talk about motive is that motive is not a crime. Motive is not enough to convict anybody of anything. And like I said, the evidence that's painted are allegations. But this is where things somewhat paint a different picture. And it starts not only with Mad Ass Trey Soldier from A. Trey Hoover, but it also implicates Africa Johnson, who sadly lost her life at the A. Trey Hoover Hood Day party 2 months before this event on August 4th, 2025. The situation that was one of the pivotal straws that broke the camel's back in the gunplay that we all witnessed in the city towards the end of last year. So with Brenton Dirk,
nigga, it was a A-Trade hood day, nigga, downtown LA. Some niggas, nigga, it was the other shit like the shit at Eaglewood where a bunch of people got shot. And that girl they just named, she got killed, nigga. She was a trophy, nigga. Like, when I say she was a trophy, cuz she was a trophy. Like, nigga, she was from Hoover, but she was, like, good in the 9-0s, like, in the neighborhoods. Like, nobody touched her, nigga.
Oh, yeah, she had a son from 9-0.
Yeah, it was something like that, nigga.
That was, what's her name? Damn, what's her name? I was in jail with Cuz.
Nigga, Cuz mama was a trophy, nigga, and she just got killed by accident, like, nigga, like, you know, like,
Actually, no, Cuz from Hoover. Cuz, Steezy, nigga named Steezy. That's Cuz mama.
Yeah.
She from 9-0.
with his brother being mad-ass Trey Soldier, Rayon Dirk, who lost his life due to homicide on May 6, 2020, as well as losing his other brother in
The 9-0s like, nigga, I don't give a fuck.
that was one of the pivotal straws that broke the camel's back in the gunplay that we all witnessed in the city towards the end of last year. So with Brenton Dirk, with his brother being mad-ass Trey Soldier, Rayon Dirk, who lost his life due to homicide on May 6, 2020, as well as losing his other brother, infant Trey Soldier, Brent Dirk, in the jungles, December 21st, 2021, they also lost another soldier, Tiny Trey Soldier, who was like a brother and a son to Africa Johnson and her kids, and of course, one of the soldiers, Christopher Richardson, who was also killed in the Hoovers, March 19, 2014. So the relationship that the Trey Soldiers share with Threat, he's Lil Madass. And we're effectively talking about the upper echelon of ETH. These were those guys and were those members a part of A-Trey Hoover. And as you can see with all of that, we see a lot of pain in these situations. We released Africa Johnson's final moments to our members only. If you want to become a member, support the channel, that tragic event is available, where somebody's mother and grandmother sadly lost their life. But 2 months later, this is what the police are alleging is the byproduct. So they allege that Antonio Greer made the phone call to Brenton Dirk and Young Threat. And they allege that Brenton Dirk was the gunman based on the surveillance footage that they acquired from the dispensary. They allege that Threat did not possess a weapon, but all three of them are facing one felony murder, a felony attempted murder on YCA's girlfriend, shooting at an occupied motor vehicle, a felon in possession of a firearm, special allegations for personal use of a firearm, intentional discharge of a firearm, and with Threat and Brenton having felony backgrounds, facing a second strike offense for the homicide that took place over here on Manchester between Menlo and Vermont. Now, again, with all of this being mere allegations, the police allege that they're very aware of the war between Main Street and Hoover, and they've come to the conclusion in their eyes that this is a retaliatory shooting, and again, it's a byproduct of that war. Now, Ezell Leonard, or YCA 80 Bands, was 32 years old at the time of him losing his life, October 14, 2025. He was an up-and-coming rapper in the city, and he was starting to find some traction with coming out on interviews, getting spot placements on people's platforms, and releasing his music, trying to get through the door. This was definitely one of their top homies over there in the A4s. He leaves behind kids. He did serve some prison time previously. No smut in his paperwork. And again, the main question that's asked is truly what he was doing at this specific weed shop in this area. Even though Manchester also bleeds across the 110 into the A4s, especially at this point in time, this area definitely should have been a no-go zone. But like I said, this was minutes from his hood as well. Now, Threat, who's 25 at this time, seemingly could have took a different route. All these members were around when they were young. But Threat also went to Tockwitz High in Hemet. He played football We seen him doing this shit, but the trouble started following him with his juvenile record, with 2 charges in 2015. The top of the year that year, January 1st, 2015, juvenile in possession of a firearm. 6 months later, he's hit with a burglary, and he caught his first adult case back in 2018, which he sat on for 2 years for, which was a robbery. Now that robbery was also in San Bernardino County, and he also had another one alleged against him in Riverside County. But as you see, he got out, got with the rapid, made his way to the Kendrick Lamar album, and he's fighting for his life in LA County right now due to the allegations set forth. Now, Brenton Durr, further down the lineage when it comes to the Trey Soldier name. He's 29 at this time, and he has 4 previous robbery convictions, 3 of which being juvenile, 1 out of LA County in 2018, which he was sentenced 5 years in prison for. And he's also in LA County fighting for his life due to the allegations set forth. Antonio Greer, 2021, he went down for carrying a concealed weapon with a firearm in the vehicle, with him being sentenced for 2 years probation. And again, he had a square gig, had a job, and he's arrested December 16th, the same day as Brenton Durr, with Young Threat being arrested 2 days prior, December 14th, 2025. Now again, we have to ask you guys to refrain from any legal judgment on these individuals because they have not been proven to be guilty. These are allegations, as we will continue to restate, but these are the allegations set forth in the final moments of Ezell Leonard, aka YCA 80 Bands. And like everybody that's lost their life in the streets, we gotta say rest in peace to YCA 80 Bands. Now, if y'all want to keep up with this series, make sure y'all sign up for our membership for the members. Shout out to all the members and the subscribers. We got another video already locked and loaded for y'all coming within the next.
That's crazy.
On the set, free YSL, man. Y'all know what the f going on, man. On the dead home.
He's caught with the murder.
Want $1,000 weight loss medication for $50? It all starts with Rose Free Insurance.
On the set, free YSL, man. Y'all know what the f going on, man. On the dead homies, don't count me in. Oh, count me in. Dead homies, niggas on ACG. I'm be back real soon. I'm innocent. I'm criminal. Y'all know what the f going on. Oh, ACG.
Everybody said they gonna keep it solid when them detectives come through and got questions about a homie. Some people sit up in that room and throw their homies up under the bus and end up putting themselves in a trick bag. Dudes be looking the part, gang has face tats and all that, until they go down with a 10mm Glock with a switch and a body on it that was used in the murder of Dylan Pressey, aka Mac 80, from West Coast Rollinado Crip in Long Beach. And this is where Midwest Active from 9-4 Hoop found itself a week after the skit on Century and Main, which we see is still playing itself out with the latest shooting up at the grand opening of Marathon Burger in Long Beach. Rap News Street Politics, it's the best hood channel on YouTube. Viewer discretion is advised. Everybody we talking about are innocent until proven guilty. These are just allegations set forth in the discovery and investigative reports by the police. The only fact is that individuals have lost their lives in the streets of LA. Now we gotta work the clock back from the situation that happened at Marathon Burger in Long Beach. We got an individual that seemed to be everywhere, Treyway 7, who was kissed by a bullet during the altercation between the Rollins and the people he was up there with at the grand opening of Marathon Burger. Now we seen them moving around with the babies. The Hussein connection was in full effect. And one could say this was a bold place for him to be after the situation that transpired with Mac 80 from West Coast 80 being murdered on August 26, 2025. Now, along with him getting touched in the head, another individual from West Coast 80s is said to have lost his life in this situation. But this isn't the only time that Treyway 7 has been in the spotlight in regards to this situation. Now, we gotta rewind the clock back to 2:30 p.m. on Fig in Manchester on the day of August 26, 2025. In front of the store, by the House of Hotties, the Hoovers is outside. Not only is Treyway 7 in attendance, DeAndre Pugh, aka Bombay, is there. Ayala Anderson, aka Thumper, is present. And William Chipmunk Irvin from A. Trey Hoover is outside with the members. Now, as video is showed, three individuals pull up on Fig and Manchester in a white sedan, jump out, and get cracking on the Hoovers, broad daylight, leaving 25 9mm shell casings and one live round on the scene before speeding off westbound on 85th, hitting 5 individuals in total. One of those individuals being William Chipmunk Irvin, who sustained a gunshot wound to his left temple with an exit out of the right temple. One single gunshot wound took his life over here on Manchester and Fig. Now, in that video, we also see Treyway 7, who was getting out the way when shots let off on Manchester and Fig. Now, Chipmunk was a loved member from A. Trey Hoover, and as everybody knows, the city was set on fire by the situation that happened. Now, 3 hours after this situation, the police are sitting back and cruising through the Hoovers when they hit Colden Avenue. We spoke about Colden numerous times, and after the death of Chipmunk, the Hoovers are hanging out. When police hit the block, it's multiple vehicles double parked. They pull up and hem up 7 individuals. Out of the 7, there's Lil Fo Active, Midwest Active Lil Homie, Dante Edmond, and DeAnthony Pounds. Out of the 7 individuals, they take down a dude named Fo Mad, who had a stick on him, but he's a juvenile, but they go ahead and get him out the way. And this is when, allegedly, Thumper, who was shot at with Chipmunk, Bombay, and Midwest Active, aka Fo Active, are now on Colden as well. Now, as night falls, around 11:30 p.m., the same day, August 26, 2025, Dylan Pressey, aka Mac 80, is on Century in Maine. In front of the liquor store, he has a female companion sitting in his car, talking to another Hispanic, unaffiliated individual. Also next to him are 2 females sitting in a truck.
This the same day that the main streets did that?
Yeah.
Those 2 females unaffiliated.
I know,
And it's an old man in front of the liquor store sitting on his walker. 2 minutes prior to this, there's a white Kia Optima that made a U-turn on Main Street and hit west on Century before stopping at 105 West Century. The front passenger and 2 rear passengers jump out and start getting cracking with a 10mm Glock with a switch on it, a 380, and a 9mm, hitting the unaffiliated Hispanic man twice in the leg, missing Mac 80's female companion sitting in his car, putting bullet holes in the truck that the 2 unaffiliated females were in, made the old man get up off the walker and get his ass up out of there, but not before Mac 80 from 80 sustained a gunshot wound to the head with an entrance to the left front head and an exit above the right ear, being pronounced dead on the scene. The 3 shooters are said to have got back into the Kia and slid west on Century. Now, when police got that call of this homicide on Century in Maine, there was a simultaneous call of a carjacking on 90th and Orchard. This is right by Manchester Park in the 9 Deuce Hoovers. And with police already being hot on the Hoovers, they start to put their attention on the Figgy Middies once these 2 calls come in. Now, they end up getting a description of the vehicle that was used in the murder of Mac 80, and it comes back as a Kia. Police are in the Hoovers trying to jump the gun and wait for them to come back after the slide. And this is when they see a white Benz and a red Ram truck sliding erratically in the Hoovers. They start to follow these 2 vehicles until they end up on 84th and Vermont at a parking structure. Now, both of these 2 vehicles slide up in the parking structure, and while the police is trying to get up on them, 2 vehicles are coming out the parking structure at what they allege was a high rate of speed. One of them vehicles being a Kia, the other one being a Honda Accord. So they immediately get on them 2 vehicles and take them down. Sitting in the rear right passenger side of that Honda is Treyway 7, along with them members, and everybody goes down. They say they got 4 suspects in custody linked to the murder of Mac 8. Now, while they trying to squeeze these dudes, they've made a mistake. The Kia coming off 84th and Vermont is a light gray Kia K5. The Kia used in the murder on Century in Maine is a white 4-door Kia Optima. Treyway 7, who we see is everywhere right now, is let go, mistaken identity. These dudes weren't at the scene. But one of them does end up going down for an unrelated shooting, and you see how the Hoovers is hot. Now, back at the scene of Mac 80, they glue together that carjacking call from 90th and Orchard as being another white Kia Optima. And then they get a phone call saying that it was found on 89th and Tupache. 89th and Tupache, the 9 foes. And the Kia was found because when it was carjacked on 90th and Orchard, the owner had left one of his cell phones in the car and was able to track it 4 hours after the shoot. Now, since they've glued together this carjacking being related to the shooting of Mac 80, you know they set the owner of that vehicle down in the room and asked him what happened. He turns out to be a DoorDash delivery driver who was set to deliver a Pizza Hut order on 90th and Orchard. He said when he got there, he met with a female who had ordered the pizza, and while she was getting her paper together to give him the money, two suspects jump out on him and push him to the ground. He said when he looked up, they started clutching on their waistband. He covered his eyes, and they skirted out of there with his car being trailed by a black Chevy Cruze. Now, as you can see, it's a lot of cookie crumbs being left over. As soon as they got this information, they start tapping everywhere for surveillance cameras related to this carjacking and to the murder of Mac 80. They tapped the liquor store on Century and Main. They tapped that elementary school on 89th and Tupatchie. And they were looking at cameras from houses on 90th and Orchard. But they were sitting on a gym because, like I said, the owner of the Kia had left the phone inside the Kia. So they extracted all the geolocation data from that cell phone as well and were able to follow every path that the Kia took that night. But along with that, they also got the DoorDash information from the account that ordered the pizza. So when they got that phone number from the DoorDash account that ordered the pizza, they started looking for phone numbers. They noted that it was a text now number and had to wait for the subscriber information on that phone. But they did come back with a call log in regards to the communications that this phone number was having around the time of the carjacking and the murder. And two phone numbers were produced. One of them phone numbers, they got silly and slid it into Cash App, and it popped back as a relative to Lil Fo Active, aka Dante Edmond, who had just been searched hours earlier with the members on Coda. The other phone number came back to Tiny Fotrit, aka Robert Bremy, who's also from the Figgy Middies. So now that they had that, they looking at the surveillance camera from Century and Main, and not only do they see the white Kia, but they also see it being followed by a dark colored BMW. Now they got on this BMW because it made the same U-turn and was making the same movements as the white Kia, step by step, and they figured this was the scout or the tail car being used to assist.
Have you ever seen what pain could really do?
Drop the bag! Drop the bag! 1713, making contact. Drop the bag! Drop the bag! Drop the bag! Drop the bag, sir. Drop the bag! Drop the bag! Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Stop! Drop the bag! Drop the bag! 1713, making contact. Drop the bag! Drop the bag! Drop the bag! Drop the bag, sir. Drop the bag! Drop the bag! Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Stop! I'm in an apartment complex. Suspects down. Let me see your hands. Let me see your hands. I'm in an apartment complex just north of my vehicle. Suspects down. Turn around. Hey, come inside the gate. I'm in front of the red truck. Fuck. I got shot at, Sergeant. I'm over here, I'm over here. ¿Cuál es el apartamento este? Los nombres. Cedar Glen Apartments, apartment number 13. Hey, he had a gun on me, bro. He ran this way. Cedar Glen Apartments.
Stop the car. Get out.
Get out the car,
Stop
bro.
the car. Get out. Stop the car.
Get out.
Get out. Crash. Hey. I'm gonna crash. I'm gonna crash. All right. Stop the car. Stop the car. I'm gonna crash. Get out the car. All right. Stop. Stop. Put a gun out. Stop. Put a gun out. I'm gonna crash this motherfucker out. Stop the car. Get out the car. Get out the car. Hey. Stop. family, bro. All right, talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me.
That's not gonna work, bro. That's not gonna work.
Stop! I'll shoot! I will shoot your ass! Stop!
I got a friend. Just get out, bro. Please.
Stop!
Just get out the car, bro.
Stop!
Just get out the car.
I will put one in you!
Just get out the car, please.
Stop!
Just get out the car, please.
Stop!
Just get out the car.
Stop! I'm not gonna jump. You need to stop the car for me to get out.
Okay, you're not gonna shoot me?
I'm not gonna shoot you. I would have shot you already.
Okay, just get out.
Stop! Stop!
I'm gonna get out. Just
Stop! Stop!
I'm gonna go like 10 miles an hour.
Stop! Stop the car! Stop the car!
I'm gonna go, bro. I don't trust you.
Stop the car! I will shoot you.
I'm not gonna do nothing. I promise, bro.
Okay, stop then. Stop! You need to stop.
Kill us, bro. You're gonna kill us, bro.
You need to stop. Hey, stop the car! Stop the car!
Don't do it.
Stop the... Stop the car!
Don't do it.
Stop the car!
Turn right.
I'm warning you, I will shoot your leg!
All right, I'm about to get out. I'm about to get out.
Stop!
I'm about to get
Stop the
I'm
car!
about to get out.
Stop the car! Stop the fucking car! Stop! I will shoot you! I will shoot you! Stop! Z5, shots fired! Z5, one shot fired. Subject's bailed out of the car.
Hey, it's right here. It's right here.
Put up, one command.
Just one person, get the man. Hey, you got it? You want the bullshit? Let me see your fucking hands right now! He's not moving.
Airplane, all right?
Let's see the other hand.
Yo, hands up, keep your hands up. Do not move them until I tell you to. Do not move them until I tell you.
How you doing, sir?
What's up?
Can you tell me what happened?
Yeah, he's just over here parked. I guess he lives nearby, maybe.
Okay.
So now I feel like a little shit. But yeah, loud as fuck music. So I just came out to be like, hey, you mind turning that down? And I was kind of just all get out, and he just was hyped up, really loud.